rise for the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome tonight. We always start the monthly meetings out with recognizing the Employee of the Month. And this month it's Robert Hand from the Building and Maintenance Department. He's a mechanic for, and Robert is he's an incredible electrician. He's a great asset to the village. And Jack Dew, who's his co-workers, that wrote the scope of the work and knowledge of the work being done at Village Hall, and he's doing it almost single-handedly. He saved us a lot of money on the restoration of this and second floor renovations, and he's an absolute great guy. So congratulations, Robert. He's not here tonight, but we have his picture on the lobby out there, and we have a nice little plaque to recognize him for Employee of the Month.
There's a picture, right?
Oh, here's his picture right here. There you go. Robert's smiling face there. We've got, so we have an oath of office here for Police Officer Andrew Castle.
Okay.
Chief, would you like to come up, and any members of the department? Any members of your family here you want up here to pat you on the back? Hold your sunglasses or anything like that for you? Sorry.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Andrew Castle,
I, Andrew Castle,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of police officer
the duty of police officer
of the Southampton Village Police Department
of the Southampton Village Police Department
according to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Signature right there, if you don't mind. Great, thank you.
Yep. Gotta get some team photos here. Everyone wants photos. So stand in the middle there. You want to have your family come up and guys from the department? Congratulations. Good.
I get back to work.
Yeah, that's right. Supposed to be on patrol right now. Yeah. Get public comment. We have 3 minutes per speaker. State your name and address. Got a list of people who've signed up already, and after that I'll call. So Evan Conrad.
Good evening, trustees. Evelyn Conrad, 18 South Roscoe Drive. I'd just like to say, first of all, at the outset, that I respect and admire what individuals and organizations did to try to save the Concert House. I have no affiliation with them. I do not represent them. I'm simply stating that I admire what they have tried to do. I'm here as a resident of the village, an attorney, and a taxpayer. And that's why I'm reading this letter to you. Under the New York Freedom of Information Law, New York Public Officers Laws 84 and so on, I'm requesting that you produce true copies of the following public documents listed and enumerated below. Since all of these documents cover events of the past few months, I believe that 5 business days, the usual, should be sufficient for your purpose. Minutes, number 1, minutes of the trustee meeting at which the resolution to hire David Arnson, Esquire, of Devitt Spellman Barrett, to represent the defendants, the village and the ARB, in the $10 million case brought by Recom Holdings, David Hermer, and Sylvia Campo versus the Incorporated Village of Southampton, the present members of the ARB, index number 1404709, brought ostensibly in the Supreme Court of the State of New York on March 5, 2014. 2, copy of the signed resolution referred to in paragraph 1 above. 3, copy of the letter of engagement to Mr. Arnson defining his responsibility in the above matter, dated and signed by an authorized officer of the village. 4, record of the number of hours and the dates showing Mr. Arnson's performance in that case. 5, record of the insurance claim that the village made to the village insurer to cover the above expenses so that the financial burden does not fall on village taxpayers, and the record of reimbursement. 6, minutes of the trustee meeting where the terms of this settlement were discussed by the trustees and or by the members of the ARB who were defendants. 7, copies of the resolution signed by the trustees to accept the stipulation of settlement dated 21 May 2014. I assume that you will charge me the usual fees for copying village documents under FOIL requests, as I've paid in the building department in the past. If you deny any of the 7 requests above, please cite any specific exemptions that you feel justifies the refusal to release the information, who gave the authorization to you to refuse that request, and the appeal procedures available to me prior to having resort to court action. As always, I thank you for your prompt help. I have a copy of this, obviously, for you, for each of the trustees, for any members of the general public who might be interested. I'd like to point out, in any case, that if these documents were to not exist, I can't imagine that they wouldn't exist, then the stipulation, the settlement would be a nullity, and the 11 December 2013 decision by the ARB to save the concert house would prevail without a shot being fired. Next, I have objected for quite a while, but in vain, to, yes, that's what I'm looking for, may I have that? Mm-hmm. To the minutes. I would like to point out to you in one of the minutes, again, generally, the misstatements involve me. They certainly do in this case. And since I have the DVD of that particular meeting, I think the meeting referred to, it was a public meeting, June 12th, 2014. Give me a moment, please. They're very long, but not very accurate. Oh, sorry. Here it is. Evelyn Conrad, 18 South Roscoe Drive, commented that she demanded the resignation of Curtis Highsmith from the chair of the Board of Historic Preservation and Architectural Review due to his, quote, lecturing, close quote, of an applicant at the last ARB meeting. That was the full reference to what I said. I demanded that you ask for his resignation because at that previous ARB meeting, he had told people who objected to a huge house going on Woolley Street, he had said, everyone, and it's on the DVD, you know, everyone has a right to put up a 5,000, 7,000, or 10,000 square foot house, and we at the ARB do not have authority to stop them. Your own mayor said that's not a correct statement. I said such incorrect statements are called lies.
Right.
I'd like to have those minutes corrected. Thank you.
Okay. Bruce Bachman?
Mr. Mayor, I want to speak on the Halsey next meeting situation that I raised.
Well, it's a letter that is being sent. Do you want to come and speak now? Yeah. So
Communication.
it's just communication to the board. It's just communication to the board from the Greens in reference to the speed limit.
My name is Bruce Bachman. I reside at 660 Halsey Neck Lane.
by chance. And we have spoken about the speeding situation there, which, of course, combined with the flooding situation, makes sort of a very hazardous set of circumstances. I see that we put a speed indicator in along the way, which I think will help. But we really think that if we're going to get the speed along Halsey Neck Lane, where there's an awful lot of foot traffic and bicycle traffic and jogging traffic during the summer, we really need that speed limit, whatever it is, 30 or 25 miles per hour, enforced for a while. It won't take long. It doesn't take very many instances of that speed limit being enforced to actually have it happen. I think we're getting a little impact from the speed indicator, but that's not going to stop. Particularly what happens fairly early in the morning when people are blasting down Halsey Neck Lane trying to get to work, and they're just rambling along in their trucks. My neighbor across the street, Harry Theodore Koplis, would proudly tell you he was once a race car driver, gets up in the morning and watches this, and he says, I know reckless driving when I see it, and people who can't handle their vehicles. He said, this is just scary, and it's getting worse. So whatever Jason and Rachel have said in their letter, we support the entire neighborhood. We would like a little more enforcement in there and see if we can slow people down.
Chief is here, and I know that that it's been an area of concentration for our police officers who've been assigned to traffic duty, and they have been writing tickets in the area. We're trying to get a permanent speed indicator installed both ways, and the problem is that there's no really road electric there for us. We're working on that at this point in time, and the letter is requesting we drop the speed limit to 25 miles an hour because in New York State village law, we can't drop the speed limit below 25 miles an hour.
25 will be fine.
Yeah.
30 is fine, actually.
Well,
if we
it's
could
just
enforce
all,
30.
it's all about enforcement.
Okay, well, thank you. I just wanted to
Thanks.
express my opinion and some others.
Thank you.
Neil Smith?
Neil Smith, 466 Gin Lane in Southampton. Firstly, could I just thank you for listening to me and compliment you on what I think is an excellent forum to give residents the opportunity to speak. I've only been in Southampton 2 years. I've been involved in village government in other places. There aren't many villages that do this, so that's a compliment to you all and to your credit. I just thought I'd come today as a relatively new resident just to give you 3 quick observations. This may be the wrong forum. You may point me in the right direction, and you know, it may not be relevant, but I really love the time I'm in Southampton, and I thought you'd just like to hear what I had to say. 3 quick things. First of all, it surprises me that that your zoning board has laws which allow, within code, a 47-foot high solid wall to be built within 15 feet of my property, within 20 feet of a guest house on my property. Just surprises me that your code allows that to happen. Second thing is, I attended your ARB, I think it's your meet part of the village. I attended your ARB meeting the other night, and I was shocked. This was a public meeting at which I was not allowed to speak. I was closed down at the meeting, and it seemed to me most of the debate in the meeting was about the procedures of the ARB, not about the matters, you know, the serious matters that are under contention. Seems to be a massive rush to try and get things passed at that board, you know, rather than trying to listen to all of the arguments. I mean, I don't know the pros and cons of that debate that was going on, but the debate stunned me. Seemed a very strange way to do justice. And thirdly, you know, just also at that ARB meeting, what also surprised me was the little weight that seems to be given to the residents of Southampton in your meetings. You must have had 50 residents there who collectively have probably been living here for about 3,000 years or something like that on one side. And on the other side, you had, you know, one person who's perhaps visited Southampton 3 or 4 times with a battalion of paid people. And the weighting of those seemed to me to be hugely disproportionate. Anyway, I just thought that as you do these forums, which is a super idea, maybe my views, you know, are in the wrong place. Maybe they don't count a lot. But I just thought, there's a relatively new resident and somebody who loves Southampton, you'd just like to hear them.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Susan?
Susan Stevenson, 84 Toilsome Lane, Southampton. Riding in the wake of Mr. Smith, I'd like to ask how the rules for speaking are determined in the ARB meeting. Because from my point of view, there should be a time for the applicant to present. There probably should be time for people who live close to wherever the property is to present an opposition. And then, I think to make it a truly public meeting, everyone else, including counsel for anyone, including the applicant, should be held to the 3-minute limit. They've had their time. People were closed down at this meeting. It was decidedly, it was not really a public meeting to me.
Hey, I wasn't at the meeting. I haven't seen the
There's
meeting
a
or
tape.
anything like that. But we were just talking about that earlier. But in a public hearing, there's no time limit.
Well, we were told there was a time limit.
I'm just telling you, in a public hearing, there's no time limit.
Is that a public meeting?
Well, there's a difference between a public meeting. Every meeting that there's a quorum is a public meeting, okay? And some of the agenda items are public hearing items, and some of the agenda items are not public hearing items. And if you have a public hearing on an agenda item, there's no limit to the amount of time that one can speak.
Well, then that was decidedly unfair on Monday night, and has been.
Trustee Ystromski watched the tape. I think Trustee Hatcher.
It's not the first time either.
But
All right.
that's
Well,
Rick,
people-
I'm correct on that, right?
I mean, people in the community really care about certain issues and would love to have a
Subject to a couple
protocol.
of qualifications.
Okay.
A board who's conducting a hearing can decide how long to let somebody speak at a particular time. Otherwise, the meetings could go on until 4 a.m.
Could you clarify that a bit?
And secondly, if you're talking about, okay, I don't have that folder in front of me. Is it the 40 Meadow Lane thing they're talking
Yes.
about? Okay, that was not your typical public hearing.
Okay.
The public hearing was held a couple of months ago, and it was closed. And then there were requests from some people at a subsequent ARB meeting to reopen the hearing. And those people who asked that the hearing be reopened spoke at a particular meeting. Now, I had not been present at the ARB meetings, but from what I understand, from what Bo Robinson told me, at a subsequent meeting after certain people appeared and asked that it be reopened, the board reopened the hearing for a limited purpose. So it wasn't a full public hearing, it was a reopened public hearing for the limited purpose for which it was reopened. And I'm not familiar with the details of all that, but my impression is it was reopened for the purpose of hearing those people who were at the prior meeting and asked that it be reopened. Beyond that, I shouldn't even be commenting because I'm not familiar with what went on there.
Yeah.
These are things that,
Okay, that was a special case. But in general, the counsel for the applicant, it seems, is always given a whole lot of time and can cut in and rebut and do all kinds of things, whereas the people who are against the issue or want to speak are not really allowed to do that. So it's unfairly weighted. I've been in the meetings. I've reviewed the tapes. It's really, is it written, where, is that a law? I can look in the code. I'm perfectly capable of how, it says they can make their own rules, I believe, in the code. Is that right? To conduct the meeting?
there aren't any rules in the code about how to conduct a public hearing.
So what are the rules? No, I really do want to know.
It's a discretion
Well,
of
it's-
that board.
The
It
public
kind of
hearing
varies.
is conducted by the board who's conducting the public hearing.
Yes. And-
Within reason, the board that's conducting a public hearing can establish parameters.
Including not letting the public speak?
I am not
Okay, well,
going to
I
comment
think
on
some of
Well,
the-
I don't know. We don't know.
Okay.
We don't know the
I'm
details.
I'm one of the public, and I would really like to have this clarified so that it might reduce contentious activity in these meetings.
You know, I know that the rest of the board who hasn't watched the tape is going to watch the tape.
It's not just that tape.
Well,
It
but
happens.
It's probably a, it's Roger's Rules of Order that you're supposed to follow is NICOM. It makes recommendations on how to manage a board meeting.
Okay.
And I'll look at that, and I think we all will, and speak with the chair.
That would be great.
Okay.
Quick question, the gentleman with the presumably an
Smith.
English accent?
Yes, Mr. Smith.
You, I'm told, everybody describes you the same way by your accent. But
So nice.
I think we're all English. Sorry.
my father was an ace in the RAF,
Wow.
First World War. Anyhow, but I was told you were shut down very rudely. But I think Susan brings up another point. If individuals were given 3 minutes, if there was a limit and they had to conform to it, I can understand that. But I'm told, does the attorney for the applicant, is he sailing under a different set of rules? Because I'm told that he just dominated the meeting.
I don't think it's fair, because I mean, Rich is the only one who's seen the meeting. I haven't seen the
haven't seen
meeting.
it
I
either.
can't respond one way or the other. I'm going to watch the tape, and I'll speak with the chair on it. But
Keep in mind that it was not a public hearing.
And that was a distinction.
It was a reopened public hearing for a limited purpose. There's no requirement that the board even reopen the public hearing.
But I was at
They
the
were
meeting.
encouraged to reopen it by the people who spoke there and by other people.
I was
They
at,
did, but, you can't, whatever happened at that meeting can't be viewed as your traditional public hearing, because it was an exception that the people got heard at all.
I was at the earlier meeting as well, which I thought was the rule. But my problem was, I didn't know what the ground rules were. I didn't know whether I was allowed to speak, how I was allowed to speak, that I could speak. But you'll see it yourself on the tape, because I think you very wisely record your meetings. So I think you'll see what happened.
Okay. I appreciate.
Thank you for your time again.
Okay, well, I'd just like to say that that might have been a special meeting, but that can take place where an attorney takes control pretty much of the meeting to the detriment of the public. I have one more thing. I realize my 3 minutes have gotten all goofed up, but the new law, the ad in the paper announcing that you're having a public meeting for the moratorium. When I read the copy, it seems to me that you're just repeating the code that we already have. Is that
Not true.
Not true?
No. No,
Could you just,
well, basically what it is that the issue over height with a lot of the houses is really turned into the issue associated with the FEMA regulations.
right,
And historically, what's happened in the building department is that you have the height, and then they've been giving the FEMA number to people to allow them to build their house starting at a certain level. Okay, and so what this has done is it resets, and once that happens over a period of time, basically it almost becomes the norm and the standard, and because the floodplains changed and the FEMA rules changed, this is an opportunity for us as a moratorium to reset that process.
have other municipalities nearby reset this in a different way? Do you know?
Well,
Like, let's use East, I don't know. I don't know anything about their rules.
East Hampton has did a couple of years ago a very intense study of building heights throughout their village.
And changed their code?
And their code for the larger lots goes up to 40 feet. I don't know what, I don't know how they use the new FEMA regulations and how that impacted them. We got a meeting next week with all the mayors and supervisors. I'm going to be bringing
great.
that up and talking to people about it. I spoke to the mayor from West Hampton Beach last week. She's new, so she's trying to figure out a lot of the operations. So it's we're not alone. I mean, other municipalities are dealing with the same thing.
Do you think to the extreme that we have the problem here?
No. When I spoke with Mayor Rickenback in East Hampton, he relayed the same issues that we talk about here when it comes to building and building heights and designs and all of that. I mean, they're running into the same problems we're debating at our boards, they're debating in East Hampton Village.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks. That's everybody who's signed up. Would anyone else like to speak? Okay. I'm going to close the public comment section. We've got a board presentation. Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance, a new ambulance facility. I encourage, there's a flyer up here in the front. I would encourage everybody to take this. It's a lot of good information in reference to the building presentation. Rich, you want to take this over?
Yeah. Again, thank everybody for attending this, and I see all the blue shirts and EMS shirts, so thank you guys for finally showing up for the support. What they're going to present tonight is nothing new as far as what most people are familiar with. We've been talking about a new facility for the SVVA for quite some time. A couple of issues have derailed it and matters and some bigger macro issues, but we're bringing it back to the front of the table here, and what we have tonight is a presentation with the department. We have the architect, we have the general contractor who would put some numbers together and the process, and right now we're to the point where we're comfortable now, the mayor is comfortable. We want to present some final presentation, some final numbers or estimates of numbers to the public and get it out there. And we want to bring this out to the public, and we want to, me personally, I want to see this get done. We all want to see this get done. We want to see it get built for these people who sorely need it. So tonight is part of a refresher for what we've been discussing for the past couple of years, with a couple of new, real, true details and facts. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Chief Rick Fowler of the SVBA, and then he'll start and he'll bring in the rest of the people and
Do you want to bring this
present.
closer to the screen?
Maybe we want to cut the lights.
Is this about where to send it?
Yeah, you just need to open that front.
Rick, can you just introduce the players here? Rick and Paul, can you just introduce the players here? Rick and Paul.
All right.
While we're getting that warmed up, we'll cut the lights on, and then Rick, you can. So, Chief.
All right, good evening. I'm Rick Fowler. I'm chief of the Village Ambulance. As Rich stated, we're here tonight to talk about the new proposed ambulance headquarters, as well as some of our building deficiencies and a little brief history of our department. I have Rick Stott here with me. He is the architect who has very graciously donated his time to come up with some prospective plans for the new building, as well as Paul Adamo from SCC Construction Management, who has graciously put some numbers together for us to figure out the ballpark in which we are to create this new building.
Okay.
All right. So, like I said, we're the Southampton Village Volunteer Ambulance, and we're going to give you a brief history of our department, as well as some of our building deficiencies. This should all be recap from our board presentation earlier.
Yeah, but just say that there are a lot of people here that this is a great opportunity for you guys to talk about what you're doing. There's a lot of people here that have not had the privilege to hear about the volunteer service and the incredible service you provide to this community.
Sure. All right, so we were founded in 1993. We're a New York State Department of Health Advanced Life Support Agency. In 2012, we were awarded Suffolk County EMS Agency of the Year. We were voted the best EMS agency in all of Suffolk County. Not only do we run emergency calls, but we have a bunch of community programs. We offer community CPR courses every month, once a month, as well as first aid courses for the public and community quarterly. We provide around-the-clock care 24/7, which consists of our highly trained volunteers who are state and nationally certified to provide the advanced care. So when our department started off in '93, we had roughly 10 members. Over the past several years, our membership has drastically increased and has nearly tripled. Back in 2011, we had 25 members, and as of right now, we have over 65 members and counting. Each meeting, we're taking on more members and more people that want to volunteer. So it's a pretty big change. This year, well, prior to this year, we in 2007 we started advanced life support first responders between the hours 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. 7 days a week. This year, we are very fortunate to have the village allow us to go around the clock with that to provide coverage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is a paid first responder paramedic that is at our building at all times, and as soon as the call goes out, they first respond and start care for the patient until the ambulance can get there. This has brought our response time down dramatically. Our average response time is at 4 minutes, and since we added the 24/7 overnight coverage, it's brought our response time down to probably closer to 3 minutes. So our call volume has also increased. We're right around about just shy of 700 calls a year. This year, we're already at 468 calls. We've been going really steady. Last month, July, was our busiest month ever in the history of the department. We ran a total of 98 emergency calls. Prior to that, the record was 82 calls, which was May of 2013. So far this month, we're up to 50 calls, and we're not even halfway through the month. So this has been a very busy year for us. So in 2013, our volunteers put in 2,793 volunteer hours on emergency calls alone. This doesn't include all the additional training and standbys and special events. Like I stated before, for the past several years, our average response time has been right around 4 minutes, just shy of that, which is phenomenal. The county, we're one of the best in Suffolk County with response times. So in addition to the emergency calls, we also have non-call hours, which is duty crews, members being on call, standbys, which we do nearly 40 a year. This includes football games, charity runs, parades, graduations, large funerals. Every time there's a snowstorm or a hurricane, our volunteers come down and stand by in case of any calls. Not only do we have the standbys, we also have classes and trainings. To keep the top-notch care, we have to keep the specialized trainings and ongoing recertifications. On top of that, we also have department meetings to conduct department business. We meet once a month, and we also have drills once a month. And on top of that, we have also other non-call activities. So in 2013, the non-call hours that our volunteers put in was 22,807, which is a lot of hours. So this is just a breakdown from 2013. It adds up to 25,600 volunteer hours. And that's about 62 working days per member volunteered to the Village of Southampton, which is quite a lot. That's not being paid, that's what they're doing. So we started this process with our growing department, our increased number of calls, our increased membership, our larger equipment. We've determined that we're going to need a new facility because we were outgrowing it. So we started this process in 2009. The needs that we needed were more storage and more space. The way we came to this process was we went and visited other East End departments that were similar in size, ran a similar number of call volume, had a similar number of volunteers. So what we did is we visited these other departments, evaluated what their needs were, how they accomplished it, and how they functioned. The objectives of this was to provide adequate space, increase the safety in our current facility, improve location. We want to minimize the burden to the taxpayer. We have an ecological responsibility. We want to provide more for additional community needs and improve parking. So currently our building deficiencies, the location requires us to frequently use Main Street and Job's Lane right through the business district for emergency responses, which is pretty dangerous. We have the emergency ambulances coming down these main streets, and we have pedestrians all over the place, cars backing out of parking spots. We have people that even walk right in front of our ambulance as we're responding to a call. So it becomes quite difficult. We have to back in from Meeting House Lane, which has also become a very busy street. We have cars backed up from the traffic lights. We don't have room to turn around in our building, so we have to block the street and back in. Oftentimes, as we pull out, we have cars whizzing by us and almost crashing into the ambulance. We don't have any storage for our first responder inside. Our first responder is what the advanced life support provider drives to the calls, which carries medications and special equipment, which needs to all be kept inside in a temperature-controlled environment. So right now, that's exposed to the elements. We don't have enough room for all our ambulances. This year, we were very fortunate to purchase a third ambulance due to our increased number of calls, which has been used a large amount of time so far this year. So right now, we're keeping one ambulance outside as well. We don't have enough room inside our building for our beach rescue vehicle, which is a small all-terrain vehicle, which we use probably every weekend going to calls. So right now, that's kept in a shed out back. Again, that's not climate controlled. That's just outside, exposed to the elements. And we have inadequate parking for our volunteers. Right now, we have 4 parking spaces with all the additional equipment that's cutting down. A typical crew for an ambulance is at least 4 volunteers. So we barely have enough room for 1 ambulance to get out the door, and we have 2 others to staff, so there's no parking. So our members have to park on the street, have to park next door at the Presbyterian Church. If there's an event going on, forget about it. We're just parking wherever we can find a spot, and it really clogs things up. Other building deficiencies, inadequate storage space for our medical and operating supplies. We have to keep overstock medication and supplies on hand. The reason for this is once we use some on a call, we have to be able to restock it. And when we have to have something to restock that. Right now, our overstock has increased due to the minimum requirements that are changing to adapt to the new standards for medical care. So we're required to carry more equipment and keep more on hand. We have inadequate office space. We have a tiny little office. We have 1 computer and 3 desks in there. It's really tight. It's hard to hold any sort of meetings in there. We have inadequate meeting space. Now we don't have enough room for our members to have a meeting. We have members standing, and now with 65 members to fit in a tiny little room, it's just not feasible. We can't even do it. So now, right now, fortunately in the summer months, we actually meet outside. But come the winter, we're not going to be able to do that, and we're going to have to find another meeting space. We have no officer conference space. We have no space to sit down to have conferences or meetings or any private areas to deal with any private matters. We have no kitchen facilities. We have a microwave. That's our kitchen. There's no way for us our members to cook a meal for themselves while they're there. For our meetings, we have to wind up getting takeout, which costs a lot of money. We have no laundry facilities. So any equipment or blankets or sheets that get soiled on calls, we don't have space to wash it. So we have to throw them in red bags and then put them in a vehicle and take them down to the hospital and let them worry about it, but it's really not very sanitary or safe. As well as numerous safety hazards around the building. Currently, we can't open the doors of our ambulance without knocking into something, and you don't have anyone, or no one can walk by the ambulance when the doors are open. So, like I said, this is our vehicle bay space. When we open the doors, there's no way to maneuver around the ambulances. In the back, on the sides, and then when the door's down, There's just no way. This is very unsafe. We have people opening doors to get out of the ambulance. If someone's walking by, it clocks them in the head, and now we have an injury. Another picture of the same thing. This is our space for our beach vehicle. Like I said, it's a shed out back. Pretty tiny. That's all we could do at the time. It's not heated. It's not climate controlled. We have to take off all the equipment, bring it inside. When we have a call, we now have to bring all the equipment out there, load it on, and then respond, which adds up times. So in a time of emergency, we want to be out the door as quick as possible. Our storage space. This is our storage room. It's a 20 square foot closet, and like I said, it's just spilling over now into our general meeting room, stacking up. We have stuff upstairs, but like I said, the medications have to be climate controlled, so we are very limited as to what we can put upstairs. This is our office, 1 computer, 3 desks. We have lack of storage in the office to keep personal files and patient records. By law, we're required to keep every patient's record for a minimum of 7 years or 2 years after their 18th birthday. It has to be in a secure location, that in a fireproof cabinet. Well, we're running out of room, and we have nowhere to safely secure these documents, which are required to keep by law. Conference room, like I said, we need a confidential meeting space for our officers and members, which we don't have right now. So this is our meeting room. It's 386 square feet. We're elbow to elbow in there. We can't move around. It's a fire hazard. And like I said, not all our members fit in the meeting room. We have people standing. We have people standing in another room trying to listen. It's tough to fit 65 members in that space right there. This is our member training space. This is the recreation room, but we also use this for our training and our community classes. This is the only space that we have to do these trainings. So every month when we do our community classes, we push out all the tables, and that's what we have to work with, which is pretty tight. This is our kitchen and our lovely microwave. Pretty tough to cook a meal for 65 people in that. There's no prep area for the food. There's no storage. Like I said, takeout, cost of that, it just adds up. We want to be able to cook at our meetings and have a place to store the food afterwards. And that's what I have.
Okay. Rick.
Yep. And Rick's gonna take it
You
over
can keep
now.
going. Okay. My name's Rick Stott. I'm an architect. My office is next door on the second floor above Silver's. First of all, I want to thank all of you EMS volunteers for the great job you do. I've needed you guys myself in the past, and there's nothing better than the feeling of having you guys show up when you need them.
All said.
I want also to just relay a little story. A few weeks ago, when we were preparing for this presentation, from the second floor I heard the ambulance call, the ambulance siren on Main Street, and it was right after Memorial Day. I looked out the window, and the traffic was jammed in both directions. There was southbound traffic waiting at the light, and the northbound traffic, where the ambulance was trying to go, was held up by a woman waiting for a parking spot. The ambulance pulled up behind a woman, turned on the siren. She didn't move. I couldn't believe it. She would not move because someone wouldn't back out for her to go in. So she waited. A fire truck pulled up behind the ambulance and turned on his siren, those really bellowing deep ones that make your pants shake. She still didn't move. I wanted to throw something out the window at her. I really did. It was very frustrating, and it's just the beginning of the frustrations that these guys feel when they can't move around from where they are. The comprehensive plan, the master planning for the village that Eshcott and partners did not long ago, is right in line with moving this facility up to the more public facility where the police station is. The police station I designed myself about 12 years ago, 13 years ago now. It seems like yesterday. But it has been the most gratifying project that I've ever worked on because it's used by the public. And it's well liked, it's well used, it functions well. So when I heard about the opportunity to maybe get involved in this, I jumped on it. So I volunteered for this project. And that was 4 or 5 years ago we started working on this. And the EMS did a great job, the squad did a great job comparing what they have. They started out by comparing what they have to the new facilities in the area, Hampton Bays and East Hampton primarily, but others as well. We did long lists and charts and presented that to this board to help convince them that this facility really needs to be upgraded. And they're right, it does. So here we go. We've looked at a number of different sites. This is the one that we all think is best, and it was sort of prompted by Mayor Epley. After looking at the others, suggested we take a harder look at this one. So we did. This is the site just to the north of the village police station, between the park and the driveway that goes to the west. This is just a plan diagram, an aerial view of the 3 areas that would be constructed on top of what's already there, or actually adjacent to what's already there. The upper right is a new building, and then 2 parking areas that would complete the parking behind the building in both buildings so that it works smoothly. Right now, whenever there's any kind of event there, the parking is jammed up and it doesn't work very well. So we think this is going to solve all of that problem. This might start by itself, and it might not. This is a little 3D movie that's supposed to fly around, but not cooperating. So I'll move on. We have still images of the rest of these things. This is a plan view that shows a drawing that shows the parking and parking areas, how it'll work. We're adding well over 100 new spaces. This is the main floor plan, and you see different colors. The green color is a public space, and the beige color of part of the floor plan is for the EMS. The main entrance is towards the bottom. See the double doors there. The vestibule is sort of cut in half by those 2 colors, but that is one vestibule. And then there's a public meeting space that's just a little bit larger than the one at the existing police station, and it will be dividable so that it could become 2 spaces for 2 separate events at the same time. On the upper left-hand corner, the lower portion, is a kitchen, and then an elevator to get to the 2 floors, stairs, and the whole entire right side is offices, a recreation room, conference room, and training room. On the lower level, where the good stuff happens, and by the way, the driveways would work very similar to the police station and the Sally Port, where you see the garage doors at the police station. Instead of going left into that space, you would make a right-hand turn, go down a little bit of a hill, because both these buildings are built into the hill. So we'd have a turnaround space and staff parking on the right side there of on this drawing, and 5 bays of space, 3 for an ambulance, and the other 2 for either the first responder or the beach vehicle as it's needed. Also space behind the bays for other maintenance operations, and then other support spaces for the basic life support systems and advanced life support systems. This is a screenshot of that 3D model. I'll see if I can get that playing afterwards. This is looking down from the top. This is with the roof removed, the first floor, and there's been some minor changes since this was completed, but that's basically it. That's the lower level. This is the view from looking down Windmill Lane from north to south. View looking at the building from the back, sort of the back of the police station, looking at the west side of the building, at the dividable public meeting rooms, and the area on the left side you see that has a kind of translucent roof is an outdoor patio for EMS volunteers. This is the timeline of what we see happening. We're a month past where we started this timeline already, so it's looking from right here where we sit now that August of 2016 would be our final completion date of this building, and put it in operation at that time. And that's really all I have. I'm happy to answer questions.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Paul Adamo. I'm from SCC Construction Management. Just a brief history. We did the New Hampton Firehouse a couple years ago. We worked for Southampton School District. I did look at Rick's drawings, did a preliminary budget design based on recent construction costs on Long Island, recent costs of fire departments and school buildings, because this is a public works project. The costs are based on prevailing wage costs, and we've come up with a number about $5.5 million to build this project, based on the size and the square footage and the complexity of the project and what it's going to do. And it's based on the same design and look as the police station across the street from it.
Great. Why don't we flip the lights on here and see if anybody from the public has any kind of questions. This is Grieven.
How will the ambulance or the vehicles leave the facility? What's going to be the egress from that?
The question is, egress from the facility, how the ambulance would,
So the ambulance would, as it stands now, would leave the same driveway that the police cars do, that main driveway. The ambulance would pull out, make a right, and go down the main driveway and access Windmill Lane from there.
anyone else from the public would have a question in reference to this?
Will there be a blinking light at the bottom of the driveway? A traffic light?
Not at this.
There's nothing.
The traffic on Windmill Lane can be absolutely as bad as where you are now.
On Meeting House. It hasn't been discussed. I mean, I'm sure it's something that we can look into. Certainly a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd call up Ron Hill and have him study traffic. Yes.
What's the square footage of this new facility?
It's just a little over 10,000 square feet. The police station is about 19,000 square feet, both on 2 floors.
Yes.
What will happen to the old property?
I'm going to defer on that one.
I mean, it's owned by the village. You know, we've had debates about it. One is knocking it down and turning it into a parking lot, because we need parking in the village. Excuse me? Or sell it?
No, that's been.
That's been a discussion topic.
Using it for one of the other departments, or so it's. You know, the good news is we own it, so there are some possibilities.
So there's a variety of uses. A variety of ways we can deal with that property. So, sure, we'll have plenty of debate around that. Yes.
This is not a snarky taxpayer question.
Yeah.
I just want to know, how are we going to finance this? What's the plans?
It would be bonded out, probably over a 20-year bond. You know, the bond rates are favorable at this point in time. We have the other thing that we've been looking at is the installation of a cell tower up on this property, which would help offset some of the costs, because it becomes a revenue generator for us. So that's what we have.
And Cooper's Beach.
And Cooper's Beach is also a place we've looked at doing that. So we have 4 proposals at this point in time that the village administrator has. So these are things that we've looked at, ways to offset the cost of this building.
As you pointed out too, that's why we've been looking. You know, timing being everything, as you know, the last several years, and still currently we're in a very favorable interest rate environment. So that's kind of, you know, the door we feel, as most people I think sitting in this room would understand, that eventually that door is going to close. So we still have good terms, and as the mayor pointed out, the cell tower to offset it covers a couple of functions. One is to get some fees off it to offset the cost of construction and funding and so forth, but also to enhance the radio coverage for our departments, which is what we need in the area as well. So, you know, this is part of a big picture, how to utilize this space, which now we got the 3D thing going, in the most functional way. And because of the current environment we're in, interest rate environment, and the markets that we're in, do it in a very cost-effective way, because obviously we're very cognizant of that for the taxpayer.
We've recognized that there are weak points in our emergency communications at certain points in the village, and you know, that's one of the things that we've been trying to work on.
Right now, there's spots in the village where we can't communicate with our dispatch and other units, so we're there and they're trying to get a hold of us, and we're on scene trying to get more resources, and it's just no way to communicate. So, like the mayor said, it's something that we are working on as well.
But it's you know, the volume of calls, I mean, it's basically running 3 calls a day out of that department, and you know, we have a paid responder, one paid responder on duty at all times. The rest are all volunteers. These are people that are leaving their dinner tables and their birthday parties and the beach and all of this to come in and support this community. And we have 65 of them, and we're very fortunate to have that. And this is something we've been working on for about 5 years, and we've just grown to that point where we need to move forward with this and put it in front of the taxpayers and the voters. You know, Steve would like for you to work tomorrow. We're going to try to get that timeline to begin the process here, and you know, the October, November timeframe would probably end up being a bond vote for this. And you know, I encourage people to, if you have questions about this, I would encourage everybody in this room to go over to the ambulance barn on Meeting House Lane. And I know that they've done open houses just to walk through that place and realize that what we get and the demands for a new facility and the inadequacies from medication storage to equipment storage, and the advancements that you guys are working on, the narcotics, to be able to carry narcotics. Did you want to touch on that?
Well, the safes are in. We have the license, so the safes are being installed next week, and after that we should have we just have to have the final inspection from the state, and then we'll be on board.
And just also touch on the difference between BLS and an ALS and the staffing requirements and the education components to that.
All right, so BLS and ALS. BLS is basic life support. Those are the first step when you become an EMT. Those are the basic skills. Oxygen administration, blood pressures, vital signs, giving some medications but not many. The next step from there is advanced life support, which is a lot more training. These are the paramedics and the EMT critical cares. They're providing all the additional medications. They're intubating patients. They're doing EKGs. They're doing IVs. It's a lot more training, and that's the top level of care that you can provide, and that's what our agency is. There are some agencies out there that only provide the basic life support, but the standard of care has moved to the advanced life support agencies.
We can talk about the initiative that you guys had with the Heart Safe community and the education. You guys have gone and done CPR training for all the high school students.
Yep. Every winter we go, usually in the month of February, we go to the high school, Southampton High School, for a week, and we teach all the gym classes, CPR and first aid and relief of choking. These are all volunteers giving up their week. Every student in that school learns CPR and AD and first aid, as well as the relief of choking. So this all falls in, that's over 700 students that we've trained so far. On top of that, we have our community programs that we offer once a month. Anyone from the community is invited to come down and learn CPR, and this all falls into our whole initiative to have a heart-safe community. the more people that are trained in CPR and first aid, the better chance of survival is for anyone that suffers cardiac arrest. So we're working on a project to get stores in the community on board and get AEDs placed and their employees trained. So the idea is if anyone is to have suffer a heart attack, the chance of survival will increase.
Just also, I just want to say a lot of goal of what you've seen in the slides tonight is bringing this agency to a level that surpasses a lot of our neighbors. Like the chief alluded to, we purchased a third ambulance. Now, and that was we bought it secondhand from the Southampton Town SVA, Southampton Volunteer Ambulance. They actually have some issues with handling their calls. We just looking at this room and the participants here and the volunteers, you can see we don't have an issue with the numbers. So we actually got that on the cheap, which by the way was probably about the best $30K that this village ever spent on anything. And it already has answered more calls within the village than it ever did while it was under the old department. So, and the mayor mentioned narcotics training. We now, in the past, we've had to depend upon other departments or neighboring agencies to bring them in with those qualifications. Again, now we're bringing out where we're in-house. We can do it. So we've really become a self-sustaining agency. On the back of this flyer, we were the 2013, right? 2012, right? Was it? Suffolk County EMS Agency of the Year. So the agency itself has been recognized by its peers and neighboring agencies in the state and county for its service it does for this community. And again, I think a lot of people in this room have been beneficiaries of the services. So that's where we're at right now. Dinah?
I have a question. That it seems like an inordinate amount of time, maybe this gentleman here with the construction company, and it said 2 years to be able to build this thing, in other words, to make it operative. Is that how long the fire department took?
No.
I thought it was less.
No, it'll take about 6 months to 7 months to design it and then submit it to the building department. And then about 2 months, because it's a publicly bid project, 2 months to bid and award it, and then 12 months to actually construction from breaking ground to close out.
Can any of that be condensed at all? Because
we
it
could-
sounds like
Love
you
to.
need it before.
We could try.
We'd love to, but
We could try.
Unfortunately, we
Yeah.
have some restrictions
us
there,
with the building
constrictions.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
She
It's
lay
one area.
bricks.
So, yeah.
And then the blue line.
Any other question? Do you have a question or a comment?
The very impressive 4-minute response time is, very, very interesting. When it's all said and done, do you think this is going to improve that time, getting us into the facility and getting the bus
Absolutely.
out?
Absolutely. It's keeping our members responding in away from the business district. They're not having to come down Main Street and Job's Lane in their personal cars, because we don't all have sirens and lights, red flashing lights on our personal vehicles. We just have one green light. And as Rick stated before, cars don't move for the sirens. They certainly don't move for the volunteer personal cars responding. So our members are coming down Main Street in Job's Lane, stuck in traffic, backed up. It sometimes takes them, 5 minutes just to get up Job's Lane. So at least if our members can respond to Windmill Lane now and not have to go through Main Street and Job's Lane, it certainly should help with the response times of the ambulances.
Any further questions from the audience and stuff? On behalf of the village board and all the residents, thank you guys for everything that you do around here. And look forward to being able to put this up for a bond vote, and hopefully we'll get the kind of support from the community that we anticipate. And you guys do a fantastic job. You really do.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you for all your
Thanks.
support.
So we'll give you just a couple minutes to, break everything down real quick, and if the volunteers want to stay around and watch the rest of the board member meeting,
If
great.
anyone has any questions, visit our website. It's villageems.org. We have some information about the new building, how to volunteer, how to take these community classes. And you can email us with any questions. You can schedule a visit, come down. We're more than willing to meet with anyone and talk.
Hey, Rick, just cut that off and just shut the, yeah, here, thanks.
And there's a call.
There you go.
There you go.
Good timing.
Thanks, guys, for showing up. That ambulance off the bricks. Rick.
I'm gonna run.
Rick.
Thanks.
Paul,
Thanks, guys.
thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rick. And Rick Fowler, Rick Stott, thank you. Good job.
Gonna make sure Rick can't hide back there anymore, Charlie?
Oh, wake up. The other Rick.
Oh.
Rick.
There it is.
Hiding behind that.
We have communications to the board.
Okay, first one is, excuse me, from Rachel and Jason Green. We respectfully request that the Village of Southampton consider reducing the speed limit on Halsey Neck Lane from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. As you are aware, Halsey Neck Lane has a significant amount of runners, bikers, and walkers on a daily basis. The straight is the main artery to Meadow Lane and thus experiences a high volume of car activity. Augmenting the troublesome situation is the fact that the street is substantially narrower than other streets that access Meadow and Gin Lane, such as First Neck Lane and South Main Street. The narrow roadway, combined with the fast-driving motor vehicles, creates a significant danger to the village residents enjoying the area. We hereby respectfully request the village consider reducing the speed limit, which will ultimately result in a safer neighborhood for our village residents. Please do not hesitate to contact us should you have any questions. Best regards, Rachel and Jason Green.
But I'd like to take action on this to be able to reduce this.
Okay, we'll need to look at the code to see where it gets put in.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, don't we have a certain amount we can move to 25 miles per hour, something like that, right?
Well, we just need to, we need to get the section of the code actually in the code book, so.
You want to take a look at it now?
Or we'll finish this up, and then while we're doing, unless you can grab that, we'll finish that at the end of the meeting.
Sure, okay.
That speed reduction.
All right, second one's from Southampton Soccer Club. The fall season is fast approaching and practice game schedules are upon us. Southampton Soccer Club is host to 9 boys teams and 4 girls teams competing in the Long Island Junior Soccer League that will require playing field use for practice and games. Because of the growth of the club, we now have recreational soccer for the children who don't wish to travel. The club has grown to include over 240 children. We anticipate the need for fields to be on weekdays from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. for practices, and Saturdays and Sundays between 9 and 4 p.m. for games. We've also established the dates of our summer youth camps at this time. A copy of our certificate insurance will be mailed to the village when it's reviewed next month. On behalf of the Southampton Soccer Club, I would like to request permission to use the Downs Family Park soccer fields beginning the week of September 2nd and to continue throughout the fall season until the 3rd weekend in November. As always, thank you for your consideration. Timothy Rumpf.
So I'd like to make a motion to authorize the Southampton Soccer Club to utilize the Downs Family Park fields in accordance with their letter dated August 4th, 2014.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Last one is this is from the 24/7 Emergency Care PC. For the past 10 years, the Emergency Department has been holding a post-Labor Day gathering for their employees and families at Cooper's Beach. We would like to do this again on Wednesday, September 10th, 2014. It is a dinner from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. attended by approximately 70 people. The event will be catered by Catina's. We will be providing insurance certificates to identify Southampton Village of any responsibilities. In the past, we have paid a village employee to come after the party to clean the bathrooms. We will be happy to do that again. Sincerely, Darren Wiggins.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the 24/7 emergency care at Southampton Hospital to utilize the Cooper's Beach in accordance with their letter dated August 7th, 2014.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolutions, item 1, resolve reading of the minutes for the work session of July 22nd.
I'll make that motion.
Dispense with those minutes be accepted as filed by the village administrator, and the actions taken at that meeting be and hereby are ratified and approved.
I'll make the motion.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the claims for the warrants dated August 14th, 2014, totaling $872,171.28. Warrant 5, General Fund, $4,427.40. Warrant 4, Trust Fund expense, $1,250. Warrant 5, Trust Fund, and $233,585.71. Warrant 3, Capital Reserve Fund, and the village payrolls for the periods from July 11th, 2014 to August 7th, 2014 be ordered and approved. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? Page 1, ABOFs, 1,005-1271, solar screens and paint. All data, garage maintenance renewal, 1,500. Aldo Andrioli, 3 payments for May, July, and August, 3,250 for engineering. Page 2, Braun Marketing Summer Newsletter, 1,009-2690. CSE Employment Benefit Insurance Premium for August, 22,894.20. Page 3, Cast Productions, July videotaping, $1,869.55. Chief Fire and Safety, Fire Department Lights, 2009, $28.42. Page 4, Cleary Consulting, consulting on 248 Moses Subdivision, $1,050. Commission on Vets Patriotic Events, contribution towards the July 4th Parade, $2,000. Cook Marin, flowing on to page 5. Insurance premiums, $2,159, $1,226.50, and $7,500. Cronin PLC, Certiorari Settlement for Hampton Club, $192,323.19, and Cronin PLC, and the Colony Club, $94,597.93. Dell Marketing, DPW Laptop, $1,434.98. Dell Marketing Court Computer Upgrades, $1,527. Diane Signs, PD Vehicle Lettering, $1,050. Page 6, EMT Government Accounting Services for July, $1,900. Page 7, Fastenal Company Highway Saw, $1,071.54. Firematic Supply, Fire Department Flares, $1,480. Page 8, Fundamental Business Services, July Court Fines, $1,762.50. GenServe PD Generator Repairs, $1,106.26. Glen Falls National Bank and Trust, 2014 Ambulance LoSAP contribution, $36,828.39. Charles Greenblatt PD Caps, $1,435.95. Page 9, Hampton IT, computer program for PD, $5,474. Hawkins, Delafield, and Wood, the 715 bond closing legal fees, $3,360.32. Health Research Conference for 7 ambulance volunteers, $2,870. Page 10, Herrick Hardware, flowing on to page 12. July Supplies, $1,761.04. Hildress, Cooper's Umbrellas, $1,984 for the deck. Page 13, Janison, Cooper's Garbage Pails, $2,043.72. Page 14, Johnson Electrical Construction Corp., Maintenance and Relamping for July, $2,505. LaCourte Farm and Lawn Equipment, Garage Parts, $1,156.75. Page 15, Kirsten Langley, reimbursement for the sound equipment for the Showmobile, $3,860.53. Page 60, Messiano Consulting, July grant writing, $1,587.50. Moore Medical Corporation, Rescue Supplies for the Ambulance Corps, $2,302.45. Bottom of the page, Morgan Auto Supply, going on to page 17. Garage Parts for July, $3,007.32. Morton Buildings, $12,810. This is a down payment for the damage done at the AFT Quarry with the snowplow, $12,810. Motorola Solutions, portable radios for Fire Department, $57.60. Page 18, Motorola Solutions, batteries and chargers for the ambulance, $1,151.51. MPH Industries, speed monitors, $7,530. Nextel Communications, July cell phone bill, $1,005.17. Page 19, Norsec, carting at Agawam, $1,200. Norsec Coopers, carting at Coopers Beach, $1,114.56. And Norsec Highway carting, $5,458.50. Page 20, New York State Health Insurance for September, $237,926.38. Office of State Controller, June fine, $16,478. Harvey Pendleton, partial refund of the building permit, $6,430. Physio Control replacement and for AED batteries, $1,395. And Pitney Bowes mail cost for the fire department, $1,520.99. Repayments to PSE&G for streetlights, $4,956.89. For PD, $6,188.90. And the fire department, $1,652.84. Page 23, Ronco Cleaning Supplies, $1,436.02. Safety Marking Paint for the Highway Department, $9,564.80. Southampton Masonry on the bottom of the page. Highway Supplies going on to page 24, $1,803.49. Southampton Town Controller, carding for July, $1,367.25. Southampton Emergency Equipment HVAC unit for the rehab tent, $6,985 for the ambulance. Sprague, 1,500 gallons of diesel fuel, $4,758.30. Strata Baxter Design, work on 51 Pound Lane, $2,500. Sullivan Flotation for the ferry dock, $8,400 and $76.72. Page 25, the bigfish.biz, transfer of the Septemberfest website, $1,849. Town of Brookhaven, June carding, $4,963.86, and July, $2,415.78. Page 26, United Metro Energy, 3,000 gallons of gas, $8802.89. Verizon phone bill, $3,646.96 for July. And 27, Wayne Scott Sand and Gravel, carding, $1,175.88. Page 28, Whitmer Associates, uniform badges for the fire department, $1,205.10. WM Mills, hose bed cover for the fire department, $1,002. Next warrant, CS Trust expense warrant, Elliott Gantz, dog park, this is the plaque for the donors. Dog park, $2,609.40, paid for by donations. Next warrant is the trust warrant, Banjo Lascaux balance due for the 4th of July parade. And the last warrant is the capital reserve warrant, Deere & Company. This is a replacement check for the beach tractor, $86,590.19. We had to avoid the original one. Jade Construction, payment for the stairs outside, $6,908, and the balance for the elevator shaft, $12,903. Motorola Solutions, $46,080 and $13,050 for portable radios for the fire department. And Motorola Solutions, a mobile radio and various other equipment, $9,656 for the fire department. Southampton Volunteer Ambulance, the purchase of the ambulance that was referred to before for $30,000 from the town. And Van Bortel Ford, $28,398.52 for PD Cruiser. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approve the following budget transfer to eliminate an overage for the period ending August 14th, 2014. This is $6,430 into the building inspector refund coming from contingency. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, this is the approval that we did for the partial refund last board meeting, which is being paid on this warrant. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees approve a salary increase for Seneca Smith from $9.50 an hour to $10.50 an hour. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion, this is a person that is taking on more responsibility at Cooper's Beach with just a change in staff, people going back to college. All in favor?
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the use of Cooper's Beach parking lot by Talent Resources for a movie premiere on Friday, August 16th, 2014. Have a motion?
So it's Saturday.
Saturday, August 16th.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, this is an outdoor drive-in movie that's a premiere, a national premiere that would be used at Cooper's Beach and on Saturday night.
Is this your acting debut?
No.
No?
Oh, it's yours. It's actually Rick's.
My what?
So,
Your acting debut in this movie?
no, actually, it was all, the movie was filmed out here on the East End. And, it's Michael Heller. His father, Mark Heller, lives right on Meadow Lane.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item 6, whereas the Village of Southampton, with assistance from Suffolk County and supporting consultants, has gathered information necessary to prepare the Southampton Village Annex to the 2014 Suffolk County Multi-Jurisdictional Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan, and whereas the Suffolk County Jurisdictional Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan has been prepared in accordance with the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000, and whereas the Village of Southampton has reviewed the plan and affirms that the plan will be updated no less than every 5 years, therefore be it resolved by Village Board of the Village of Southampton that the Village of Southampton adopts the Suffolk County Multi-Jurisdictional Multi-Hazard Mitigation Plan and resolve to execute the actions in the plan that pertain to this jurisdiction. And be it further resolved, the Village of Southampton will use the adopted and approved portions of that plan to guide pre- and post-disaster mitigation of hazards identified. Have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. This is just an update of the plan that we did a number of years ago, and allows us to get grant money prior to any hazards that come our way. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approve the appointment of Benjamin Reister as a probationary member of the Agawam Hose Company, 1 effective August 14th, 2014. Have a motion?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Last one, resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following payments from the Capital Reserve Fund, subject to permissive referendum. Jade Construction, $19,811 from Facilities Reserve. Motorola Solutions, $68,786 from Fire Equipment Reserve. Southampton Volunteer Ambulance, $30,000 from Major Equipment Reserve. And Van Bortel Ford, $28,398.52 Major Equipment Reserve. Have a motion?
Make the motion.
Yeah, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You want to do that other resolution?
Yes, please.
Resolved that section 110-39B, the B is a capital B, of the Village Code be amended by adding Halsey Neck Lane under the name of street column, by adding 25 under the speed limit mile per hour column, and by adding entire length under the location column.
Got a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Further discussion?
I just remember when isn't there some process, whatever the state requires for the 25? I mean, I remember we were gonna move something. I remember the chief one time pointing out.
We can't change everything to 25.
Can't
Change everything.
You can't do
We
it
have to
across
have-
the board.
Yeah.
That's what it was. So, but I didn't know if we had like certain limitations. We had to, there was a cap or something, chief? I mean, I'm just for my own
There's
edification.
no cap. If you tried to do it for almost every street in the village, it would be
That's what,
questionable.
okay, that's what the thing was,
Yep,
okay.
you can do it for
Okay.
select areas with
More
rational
traffic.
reasons for that area.
That's what, I remember some discussion. I remember the chief at the time, Chief Wilson, coming up and saying,
Yeah, well, at one time,
it's gotta be-
somebody proposed doing it on almost every
I think, okay,
north-south street
okay.
in the village.
That's what
That
I'm
came up
thinking.
in that
Okay,
context.
that's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
all right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Greens are back here, and with their kids. All right, good. All right.
Okay.
Action items, trees?
Trees. I asked.
Yes.
I asked to have this done. For several years, we have been looking at our business district trees, and we have felt that in some cases the trees are suffering. And I took a walk with Larry Wojcik, who is the head of our Parks Department. I have great concern over it. We have a lot of people walking on our tree, all around our trees now. We have animals walking all around our trees now. There's a lot of soil compaction, which has an effect on the trees. I think everyone here would agree that our trees are probably one of the most beautiful things about our community, and I don't want to see them get to the point where we're losing them. So Larry and I walked Job's Lane, Main Street, Hampton Road, and we took a look at some of the trees that he had concern over. And in our discussion, I said, well, we cannot take all these trees out at once. This would be a terrible thing, and replace them, because you can't really replace them with a huge tree. It's better to replace them with a smaller tree and allow it to grow, because it stands a better chance. So I asked him to meet with John Cole, who is the head of the Bartlett Tree Company here, and he did. And right now, this year, they're looking for 3 replacements. And the recommendation is an American elm for Main Street, because they have plenty of room, but mostly because it can tolerate salt, which is another issue that we have for our trees. And we have 3 different trees, the American elm, and he did not actually give me the exact location, so I have to go back and have another meeting with him to see exactly where they are. He's documented them, the height. The height is a fairly good one. It's like 25 feet high, which I think is really quite large. Another recommendation is a honey locust, and I think we're getting 2 honey locust trees. Not the tree that you favor, Bill, that has all the things that fall off. We will not get any of those, so we can assure you of that. But they're not inexpensive. I think the The American elm is $4,480. The one of the honey locust is $3,675, and another one is $3,675. We have about $12,000 in our tree fund, but I would like to, every year, I want us to really take a good look at Main Street. I asked if there was any of them that we could save by giving them special attention, maybe some feeding, some special watering. John Cole is looking into that as well, but these are the ones that have, I can read you what he wrote about it, because I think it's interesting. Let me find what he wrote here.
Which page, right?
How about that? Where is it? Here. Thank you for the opportunity to walk the business district and do a visual inspection of the village trees, which are located between the storefronts and the roadway. Unfortunately, some of the trees are in poor condition and should be considered for removal and/or replacement. There are visual signs of root girdling caused by site restriction. Some of these roots were removed in the past, while others were too far embedded for safe removal. Others show signs of leaf scorch, and a supplemental watering program could possibly help. I recall back in the 70s, many of the sweet gums along Main Street were girdled by Christmas lights, which were left on the trees. The new lights that were installed a few years ago should be on a yearly inspection program to help protect against this happening again. If I can be of further assistance, please don't hesitate. And he recommended these 3 replacements this year. And I think we need to do it. So we'll move ahead and we'll see what happens on that, right? So I just wanted to bring that to everybody's attention.
All right. Well,
We're also
thanks
getting
again.
another bike rack on Main Street across from the, I asked for that, across from the Golden Pear. That bike rack seems to be packed every weekend, so we need one on the other side.
Okay. Comments from board members here? Thanks, Nancy. Rich?
I just want to thank the public for showing up tonight, to actually showing up for a lot of the different meetings, not just ours and recent one. There's a lot going on. And so many people are still sitting in this room, I see. So I always welcome input, good and bad, from people, because I think that's how we all learn and advance in all the departments and all just as people. So again, I thank everybody for the input that they've given so far and going forward. I also implore people to go to the village website for the ambulance. There was a lot of information shown tonight. That is a facility that is I firmly believe, personally, long overdue. So again, I thank there are a lot of people listening tonight, perhaps for the first time. So again, I implore people to investigate that and see where our money's going. But that is something that is, I think, well spent for an outstanding agency that does good service for our community. So I thank people for listening, and I thank people in advance for hopefully what they will do to support the agency in the fall. That's all I got.
Thanks. Nancy?
The only other one thing that I wanted to add to this regarding the trees on Main Street, I have meetings with beautification, and they're members of the Village Improvement Association, the Garden Club. They all participate in the beautification committee. And one of the things that keeps coming up is, what are we going to do with the area around our trees? I mean, we've tried pachysandra, we've tried all sorts of things. We'd love to make it look beautiful, but unfortunately you have the public walking all over it, and you have animals walking all over it. And we've had conversations, the mayor and I, about putting fencing around it so that it would keep people from walking around the trees, and his concern is a trip hazard. At the last meeting, we talked about possibly, there's a new grass that they have now that won all sorts of awards because it grows very slowly, does not require a lot of water, has very deep roots, and really needs to be mowed like once or twice a summer. So I was thinking, well, that could be a great thing, because we used to have grass around our trees years ago. And that came up, and everybody seemed to be interested. Linda Frazier, who's the president of the Village Improvement Association, wrote to me and said that after her discussion with everyone, they want the fencing around the trees.
Well, I wish
So
I had that grass when I was growing up.
I know, boy.
It would have been mowed as
So,
lawn as
I
possible.
still think the fencing
I'd like
is-
to continue to look into the grass and see if it could be done in such a way that, around the trees, but I'd also, if they're very interested in the fencing around the trees, I'd like to look into it and see if we can come up with something. It's very expensive. I think they want to fundraise for it. But they also were concerned about it looking urban, and I'm concerned about it looking urban as well, and I'm concerned about it being a trip hazard. I don't want people tripping over it and
It's a
having-
trip
And then
hazard.
also, Larry had said in the wintertime, we would do plowing on the sidewalks, that he's
Right.
afraid of the damage to the fencing around it.
Right, but other municipalities have it, so I mean, I just don't know, we could figure out a way possibly to do it. But it's in the process of being discussed, and, I think if we could have proof that this grass is not fast-growing and would take, and would be okay with animals and people walking over it, it might be a really good thing. Looking down the street to see something like that could be very attractive. I mean, if I had my way, we'd have flowers and it would be beautiful, but that's not practical, so I don't really see that happening, so.
Well, you and the beautification committee have done a great job.
Well, we've had a
around
lot of
here.
people participating, and it's one of those things that once you are successful in one project, people step up and say, what else can we do? So it has come a long way. So,
Bill?
more to do.
Thanks, Nancy.
Just one comment, Mark, I want to thank you and Steve for the repaving of North Sea Road, and particularly the Hillcrest area, the 3 or 4 streets that are up there. I think one of the intriguing things, it really does look beautiful. It was much needed, and it caused a joy to the people who live up there. They could not believe that finally something that had been pretty shabby could look so good. And Gary was saying they were overwhelmed at the reaction from the people who live there. So anyhow, it was a beautiful job, and thanks for your efforts. And that's it.
And, we're fortunate that we fell under the time frame for the CHIPS money, which was good for us, and the state reimburses for a lot of the paving there. So it was a very tight time frame. We had to get the job done.
Yeah, it worked out well.
We'll take the criticism for the couple of days that North Sea Road might have been.
Yeah. You're gonna get it regardless.
I know.
No, it worked out well.
No matter when you pave.
My age days don't mean a
Because
thing.
chips is hard to come by, every year, so that's a nice windfall of cash.
Yeah.
Found money.
It was found money for us, definitely. Nancy, did you want?
I wanted to add one more thing. Southampton is going to be celebrating its 375th anniversary in the year of 2015. There is a committee that's working on some of the celebration. It's really out of the Historic Museum. So anyone who might be interested in helping on that, I think it can be a really, really wonderful event. It will be a year-long event for the community, and you'll see different things. I mean, we'll have some, hopefully we'll have some flags around, if we're allowed to have that. The mayor and I differ on that. But no, I think it's going to be terrific. And some of the things that they're thinking about doing will be a lot of fun for people and will be really terrific. And a lot of the founding families are coming back. They'll be staying at the Southampton Inn. She's made special arrangements for them. Aditi's made special arrangements for them for that period of time when they'll be here. So I think that will be a lot of fun. So I just wanted to let everybody know that.
Trustee Irving's not here tonight, so I wanted to congratulate him on a grandson. He went out to Utah. His son had and daughter-in-law had a baby boy. He's healthy, and so they went out to see their grandson for the first time. So congratulations to him, and it's nice. So the moratorium at the next board meeting, we had a special board meeting last week to set the public hearing for the moratorium. So the moratorium will be, it's the next
26th.
August 26th, the moratorium. So I encourage people to come and speak for the public hearing around that. We have Southampton Arts Center, which that board's done a fantastic job, and the community's done a great job. They've done in a 5.5 week, almost 6 week period, over 10,000 visits into the facility. The 25 Jobs Lane, which is great. Liven up the place. Friday night we've got Grease the movie playing, and Summerfest is a fundraiser for them, which is going to be August 28th, and we have Septemberfest, which is the last weekend in September, and it's a week long. The Rotary does something on Friday night around here, all day Saturday, music, art, a lot of activities throughout. It's a great weekend, and so I encourage people to come and enjoy that. So it's a great group of volunteers who help putting that together. We've got food, music, a lot of great stuff. So, so with that being said, we're going to go to the second public comment section. Anyone who would like to make comments? Yes, Mr. Howard, come on up. And just come on up to the front podium. Thank you.
Okay.
Philip Howard, 63 Meadow Lane. It's been a wonderful meeting. The EMS presentation was inspiring, and it's great to see the work being done that actually makes the village as beautiful and functional as it is. So
thank you for saying
so thank you for all that. I'm at 63 Meadow Lane. I'm also a lawyer representing the neighbors around the 40 Meadow Lane, and I thought it might be interesting just to give you an update of what we've learned and what happened, not to argue too much, but just to tell you what's going on. So the ARB reopened the hearing, which is good. We had a long hearing the other day, mostly consumed by the lawyer for the applicant instructing the board what they should do, but as you'll see on the tape. But a few things came out. One is that the ARB didn't seem to be aware of the height difference of this project. It wasn't really emphasized in the original proposal, and at least one member, Mr. Hogue, said that he had no clue that this was going to be 10 feet higher than the adjoining buildings and 20 feet higher than many of the other buildings in the surrounding district. There were the two interesting issues about the height that I think were of interest to the village as a whole, not just the ARB, and they bear on the moratorium issue as well. One is that the whole process had been based on the assertion that, quote, height is not an issue because FEMA requires an extra 15 feet or whatever on the beach. But FEMA only establishes a minimal level. It doesn't establish an upper level. And I've been very active in historic preservation in other parts of the state. Historic districts typically limit, not just unusually, but typically limit the size of buildings that might otherwise be allowed by zoning in order to comply with the strictures and the aesthetics of the historic district. There's no entitlement to build up to the full zoning envelope because even if it were allowed in zoning. And Section 65.5 of the Village Code specifically says they must look at the scale of the proposed new construction in relation to surrounding properties in the neighborhood. That's a specific shall look at, and the ARB, I don't think, did that. The second point about height, and Mr. DePietris and I had a brief discussion about this a couple of weeks ago, is that while the practice of the buildings department, and I'm not sure of the facts here, has been to add at least a certain level of FEMA requirement to the 35 feet in the building code, the increased FEMA height is relatively new, a few years ago. And it's unclear to me, and we're trying to investigate this, how many, if any, buildings within the historic district on the beach, which is where the 15-foot limit, 15-foot sort of minimum applies, actually have been built. Because if few, if any, have been built, then it seems to me that there's no pattern or practice that's taken on the quality of law. There's in that, the implication of that might be that the buildings department has discretion to say that in historic districts, we're not going to simply add the FEMA on. We're going to go back to the limits we had used in prior years, which was more like 7 or 8 feet.
Well, I think the FEMA height has been a practice that's gone on for decades, and so that's where. But the change when they went through and redid the flood zone, that's where we saw the increase. I think before it was a 4 or 5 foot number, and it was.
That's correct. But the practice was you can define the practice different ways, but the practice was 4 or 5 feet. When you apply the increased amount, when you get up to 15 feet, all of a sudden the historic district has skyscrapers in it.
Yeah.
So it's just not a.
I mean, that's why we're doing the moratorium.
I understand that's why I'm doing.
Yeah.
What I'm suggesting, though, is at least worth considering whether in the historic district it's even, the moratorium is a more democratic way, I would say, of going about doing things to make sure and legislate it. But it's not clear to me that there's a pattern or practice at 15 feet on the beach in the historic district. That's the only thing I'm suggesting. The second thing that came up, and another sort of confusion, just as the height, sort of like as if height is an entitlement in the historic district, which it's not, is on compatibility. The argument, the explicit argument by the applicant is that this proposed house is compatible with non-conforming buildings. I wrote a letter yesterday to the ARB reaffirming that their argument is that this building complies with non-conforming buildings nearby. There's a legal problem with that. The code explicitly talks about conformity, the reason we have a historic district, with the historic buildings. The guidelines explicitly say new construction shall be made harmonious with immediate historic surroundings. It so happens that all but one of the non-conforming buildings predate the code, and virtually all, with a limited exception, are almost invisible. And they're all much lower than this project. So this building is higher. I encourage you to go look at the lot. The lot is tiny. And so the compatibility issue is, that argument does no less than nullify the purpose of the historic district. You put a house made of blue tinsel, and you say, I'm going to build another house of blue tinsel. Pretty soon, like crabgrass taking over the whole district is houses that are non-conforming. We have, if you're interested, we have a factual background with a number of exhibits and pictures and things, but included among them, that's a legal argument. As a factual matter, the Society for the Preservation of Long Island Antiquities and the Preservation League of the State of New York both submitted letters, powerful letters, stating for SPLEA, which helped create the Southampton Village Historic District, as you probably know, helped write the guidelines, this proposed design has not made any attempt to be compatible with surrounding properties, and its proportion of glass versus solid wall is grossly out of scale and context in the neighborhood. The Preservation League of the State of New York, the proposed new construction alters the district's character due to the incompatibility of materials and the height of new construction. They both emphasize that this is not just a question of a lot. Most lots in Southampton are hidden behind deep, big hedges. This lot is impossible to hide. It's tiny. So this house will be visible for half a mile. It's from all directions, from the Meadow Club. It's an incredibly public site. It's literally at the heart of the most visible and one of the most beautiful parts of the entire Southampton Historic District. And here's this town of 375 years of history, which has created one of the most special places on earth, reflecting in its values and its ability to afford things like a wonderful EMS system and a great community. This will significantly degrade the quality. The last point, the last confusion is at the end of the meetings, a couple of members made the point, if you cared so much about it, you should have showed up at the original hearing. And it's just too late, even though they reopened the hearing. There are reasons why people didn't show up, as we've explained, which is the earlier promise to build a traditional house and presented designs of a traditional house. But this decision is not about us. There are some significant issues with the neighbors and privacy that have risen that ARB is concerned about as well, because it's balconies over the surrounding properties. But from a policy standpoint, it's not about us. It's not about our views. It's about what's the right thing for the village of Southampton. And we didn't have an obligation to show up. I'm sorry we didn't. But the job of the Architectural Review Board is to preserve the historic district. It's not our job, it's their job. And to say that it shouldn't be preserved because we didn't show up, again, is kind of inverting a sort of right and wrong here. This is a 100-year decision. And we, the neighbors, the community, as you know, is extremely upset. We'll do whatever we can to support a sensible code. We're not asking for a clone of a historic building either. You can build modern buildings with shingles and new things, you know, that fit in just fine. This one didn't make any effort to do that, and it's, for the reasons you're going after the moratorium, clearly doesn't fit in. Anyway, we're moving forward. It's under advisement under ARB, lots of other issues have come up. We appreciate everything that you're doing with the moratorium, and we will be there to support you. And I have copies with exhibits of letters, pictures, renderings. If the trustees are interested, we have extra copies if you want to, read through it. And
I've got that on my. I was reading through that today.
So the new one.
The new one that was just dropped in.
Yeah, it has the village guidelines and the
like 5 or
architectural
6
guidelines.
letters of support that's in the package and all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So.
Well, if any of the other trustees. Yeah. So we have one for each if you would like, and we can. I'll leave a few with Mr. Funch and pick them up. And again, thank you for all that you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge with the height piece down there is going to be how do you architecturally design stuff that is not going to turn around and see a lot of flat houses. And I think that's the biggest challenge that we'll have when we look at height. You have the FEMA is where you're starting at,
right?
And so. I think part of the great architecture around here are a lot of the peaks and the beautiful windows that are up high and the roof lines that are fantastic. And so how do you, I think that's going to be the challenge when it comes to studying the height piece. And,
well, it's really, it is a challenge, but the other nearby communities have done it. They've limited the height, and they're not getting just flat roofed buildings too. I think what happens is that to a certain extent the houses spread out a little more. They're lower. You still have traditional designs, but this design is effectively 4 stories. It's a garage and then 3 stories on top of it. You have it a story less. It's flat, so it might be, instead of 6,000, it might be 5,000 square feet. But that's, I don't think the code actually, the Southampton Village Code and the guidelines, it's actually we hired an expert. We have an expert report on this problem. They were incredibly impressed with both the code and the guidelines. They said it's one of the best codes and guidelines they've seen. And
thank you. That's the very first time anybody's come and said that in front of this board.
And so now
don't hear that very often.
Charlie, did you?
I hope everybody in the room heard that.
But now all we have to do is enforce it. But the Southampton Code on height says a flat roof building has to be 27 feet. Mm-hmm. And it's 35 feet for peaked roofs.
Right.
So you can maintain one will have to maintain that proportion, otherwise you'll just get a bunch of flat roofed houses. Yeah. So you're going to have to, if you're going to move it down or make a special rule for the historic district, you're going to need to
Yeah.
You know,
Won't have
you know,
12-foot ceilings.
Well, I know what happened, like in East Hampton. I looked at East Hampton Village's code because they do a great job there, and what they've done is they've taken not zones but property size the same way we've done with yard setbacks and stuff, and they've taken the property sizes in the larger lots. Then they go up to actually 40 feet on the larger lots, and I think in this case right here, this is 3/4 of an acre.
I know, compared to 4 acres on either side of it.
Right.
And that's the
And that's part of the problem.
it's part of the problem. It's a long, narrow lot.
Right.
The house is already built into the dune system, so they had to pull that out of there anyway.
Right.
And so you get, and I mean, I like the design, but not in this location.
Right.
Okay, and that's what I would say about the house.
Yeah,
For me
well,
personally,
a bigger house, a bigger house out of the historic district in a mixing would be fine.
Right.
It's just,
this house right here, 5 lots down, is no big deal.
right.
And
That's
Way down on 4 acres.
or well, I mean, it doesn't attract the attention that
Right. Right.
is that
Well, again, I think the height limit in this, because, again, part of the historic district criteria is scale.
Yeah.
So it's really important, I think, when you're thinking about the moratorium and stuff, to think about it both in general, but also in terms of, beach property where the height is the biggest problem, in the historic district.
right.
Because I don't think there are many examples, there may be a couple, of where we've seen
They're
this
not.
happen.
They're not.
Yeah,
And I agree
right.
with you. And it's so it's gonna. I mean, this moratorium and this discussion around height is going to be a very intense discussion, and it's a lot of work that has to be done. And I know the Planning Commission's prepping for this right now, and
Right.
and it's and it plays a big role. You say flat roof at 27 feet, but I don't want to see a bunch of flat roof houses and all come in and use that and say, well, I could go up to 27 feet in a flat roof house.
Right, and that wouldn't be appropriate in an historic
Right.
district
In
in any event.
Right, and
Because it wouldn't fit
and
in.
our guidelines are, when it comes to the historic district, very, very, very well defined.
Yeah.
Bill made a copy of that tonight for the board to see, and but it's a good process, though.
Well, it's very important. It's wonderful to join in democracy, having done this, in other places,
Yeah.
democracy here. And again, I appreciate all the work you do and the time. And
Thanks.
we'll leave. We're here.
Okay. I'm sure you will be.
Yeah, we're here, and we will be offer any help we can, including legal help. And I had a wonderful legal discussion with Mr. Petras a few weeks ago, and I'll leave a couple of copies in case any of the other trustees want.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I didn't want to speak again, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
but just one thing,
I know this guy from the past. He really did want to speak.
just wanted to draw your attention. The problem that I think you have, you talk about reducing the size, is that with the size as it is at the moment, that doesn't prevent flat-roofed houses. The proposal for the house next to me at 450 Gin Lane is 47 feet high from grade at every point. It's got a flat roof, and that's 47 feet above grade.
Yeah.
And so, the fact that you're reducing, I don't think really changes whether or not you're going to have flat-roofed houses. I think that argument's fallacious. I think at the moment you're getting flat-roofed houses, but they're just bigger flat-roofed houses.
Because
Well,
people are
some people like
building into that box,
Yeah.
and that's the
But it's a huge box as opposed to a controlled box.
And that's the discussion. One second here, in the back. You raise your hand.
Barbara?
Barbara, come on. Yeah, come on up here. Okay.
Barbara McEntee. One of the things that I thought was really distressing about the last ARB meeting was the fact that we were really talking about the historic district and the person who owned the house went through a lot of pains at risk of not selling the house to have her house landmarked. And that seemed to just fall by the wayside. And so a historically landmarked house was then torn down for the reasons that were because it could not be fixed. And yet there seemed to be no actual rule as to what would go in its place at that point. And I don't know if there is in the historical landmarking system something that says, okay, if you must take that house down because of all the reasons, what are the guidelines to what goes back up?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody
Yeah.
does. It's part of the problem, number one. And number two, I did feel, along with a lot of other people, that the way that the general audience, if you would call it that, were treated by the ARB was a little distressful, because the attorney was a bully. He swore. He intimidated and was allowed to continually do it. While other people, like Mr. Smith and Mr. Howard, when politely asked if they could re-speak or speak, were just rudely either shot down or told to shut up or whatever. I mean, I don't even remember. But it was just not a good way for a meeting to be conducted. And I think that while bullying and intimidating, this lawyer continued to compliment the ARB on what a great job they did and how nice it was that they did this for the village. And he was sorry that the ARB had to be put in this position by those people. I really think it's a shame that the village of Southampton has to be put in this position by the ARB. Thank you.
Thank you. Evelyn?
I'm so delighted that we have such power behind what we've been litigating for 8 years now. I complained to you about the way we were treated at the ARB as Roscoe, not the historic district, a legal subdivision. I complained about the way the ARB treated the people from Woolley Street. I'm not on Woolley Street, but I'm a citizen of this village, and I care about the entirety, including the historic district. We complained about Burnett Street, where the ARB absolutely turned down 35 petitions. I think you still remember the 233 petitions that were put up against Robinson's attempt to subdivide 2 corner houses. So we're glad you're there, but there have been problems here for 8 years. When did you come in, Mr. Mayor? From about that time. And there's a rich history that might even help you. I know I've offered it to you and been accused of what were you calling it? Ambulance chasing? I've spent $100,000 on this village so far, and there's another $100,000 waiting to be spent. I offered it for free. Believe me, what they're complaining about is absolutely true, but it's been going on for 8 years. Where have you been? Bill knows, before you became a trustee, took you around Roscoe, talked to you about it. You too, Raina. You know. All of a sudden, we're concerned. I'm concerned with you. I hope you do something. Whoever does it, whether it's the court and the second, the next suit is waiting, by the way. Whether it's the Second Circuit or Mr. Harvard, is it? Whatever it is, as long as it's done. But the complaints have been 8 years in the making. Thank you.
Christine?
Christine Whitaker, resident of Cameron Street. I just wanted to say,
Can you talk louder, please? I'm deaf, appropriate for my age.
I just wanted to say, I can't help but applaud again the visuals that Alexander Howard has had at the ARB meetings and at occasional meeting here. And I wish there were some way in this boardroom that the public sitting could see whatever, a bit of whatever it is, whether it's a mirror or something that people could see either on television or whatever, whether it's the ARB or wherever, whatever kind of diagrammatic, schematic plan is being presented, because my understanding is that otherwise, if we wanted to see something as a citizen, a village resident, we're supposed to go to the building department and ask to look. And it would seem to me that that takes up a lot of the building department's time, much less people's, but if they had to have everybody go in because they want to see a plan, or, you know, whatever the diagram is. So thank you. If you could consider it.
Okay. Thanks.
Didn't we order the, there they are, so they're supposed to be able to
Right,
do that now.
I sent them
I know you did.
We did. I mean, we have easels now that, that.
on camera too?
It's on.
Reviewing the tape. You'd like to be able to
Well,
see
if the
what
easel
talking
faces the public, it will be on camera. If it only faces the board, then it won't be. So now we've gotten easels that will face the camera as well.
We'd like to be able to move towards some kind of projection at some point in time. Oh, we don't want to go that far, but,
Historical.
yeah. Well, actually, Mrs. Green, yeah, come on, yeah, thanks.
Regina Grieven, 375 Ox Pasture Road. I just want to thank the trustees for their attention in this matter. And apropos of a comment before, that the ARB, if they cannot do the job of historic preservation, then the name of that board should be changed and cut out historic preservation. Don't you think so? And just have it Architectural Review Board, period. Because we really feel that continuing along this line is killing the horse that laid the golden egg, whatever that expression is. Because people come here, what is it? The hen, the goose, excuse me, the goose. The duck.
The horse.
The duck that laid the golden egg, right. Because people come here for the reason that we're all fighting for now. Otherwise they can go to Levittown or someplace else, you know, right?
That's very true.
But thank you for your attention. You've been extremely kind and helpful, and we know it's not easy 8 o'clock at night to be sitting there listening to all of this, but thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Howard, did you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Susan?
Susan Stevenson, 84 Toilsome Lane. In reviewing the tapes of the ZBA way back on this 40 Meadow Lane, it appears that they granted these variances on a very narrow lot, looking at something that had nothing to do with what now has become a serious issue around here. And is there a way to, as long as the planning, is it the planning board? The planning commission?
The planning commission.
Planning commission is dealing with the moratorium. Shouldn't there be rules that if you're granted a variance, I mean, there must be some limit to the changes that can be made. These people are making like a value judgment about how tall, how wide, you know, where's the landscaping. And it seems to me that I watched the tapes, there were like 3 of them, that I wasn't too sure anyone understood what was going on, let alone me. But one of the objections by the neighbors for which they were scolded was that they believed that it was going to be a traditional house. And even now with the new house, it's shown, for instance, there's a picture in the newspaper today, which was shown, I think, to the ZBA. No, it wasn't. But which is showing this house out in the field. It's not in a field. It's right next to 2 other houses. It seems to me that somewhere along, and if I were on one of those boards, I'd be pretty freaked out that I didn't get it. And I don't know, I mean, it's very hard to get the way this thing was presented. And I just feel that maybe there should be some review of how things are presented in order to facilitate a wise decision. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public would like to say? Yes, Ms. Howard.
Thank you, Mayor Epley. My name is Alexandra Howard. I thought that one thing that came of the meeting that was obstreperously taken over by the lawyer for the applicant was that before that occurred, a great deal of really substantive information was given to the board before this sort of red herring tirade took place, and that the board, although Miss Redding was absent, does have a lot of really factual, substantive material now to consider, and I hope that they will do so.
Yeah. Well, it's not. I hope they. It's. Bill.
Yeah. I just wanted to make a few comments, and I wish I'd written them down, but thanks to Mr. Howard, I gave you all a copy of, one-page copy of some of the duties of the Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation is charged with the duty of maintaining the desirable character of the municipality and of disapproving the construction, reconstruction, and alteration of buildings or signs that are designed without consideration of the harmonious relation of the new or altered buildings to such buildings as already exist. Now, this is the most inharmonious building. I couldn't have dreamt of one if you challenged me. There's no other buildings with zinc roofs. I don't know what the percentage of glass is. I believe the house basically has no windows. It looks like it's all windows, but it's all glass. It's 49 feet high for reasons that, terrify me. And it is so out of character. And, we like to say all men are created equal. I don't think all architectural or historic districts are created equal. And if there's any district that really is sacred in this town, I think Gin Lane and Meadow Lane should be treated with the highest respect. And it says further that the board is charged with the duty of exercising sound judgment and of rejecting plans which, in its opinion, are not of harmonious character for various reasons, materials, style. There's not another house of this style. There's not another house of this materials. And as Mr. Howard pointed out before, if nobody ever came to a meeting on this application, it would be unforgivable if those 5 people approve this application, in my opinion. It's unforgivable. Now, the thing I'm worried about now is, and I just get the worst feelings watching them in action as to how this is going to work out. I was stunned when they reopened the hearing. I thought they weren't even going to do that. But they seem to have special rules, and from everything I've gathered, I could only stay at the meeting. It's funny, I heard the good part of the meeting. The first 3 presenters, Mr. Howard, his wife, and Mr. Grieven, were constructive and sober and polite and respectful, and I had to leave, and I missed the circus part of it. But I'm really worried now is if they come along and approve this building. I see that it says on this very sheet that the remedy for people that are aggrieved by a decision of the Historic Board is in Article 78. I just don't want to find the situation that we recently had with that Farrell house, that before you know it, the house is up and everything, then it becomes kind of moot. So Rick, I hope you'll keep your eye peeled, because I don't want to find out that while we're trying to fight the war, that somehow the darn building gets built. And I'm really, I'll be crushed if it happens, and I'll fight it to the death. And in any event, we'll wait and see. But I'm alarmed that the board seemed to be so out of touch as to their responsibilities in an issue like this. Whether, we live in a community, when you have hearings in January and February and March and April, a whole lot of people, particularly on Meadow Lane and that, they may get a notice. 200 feet. 200 feet covers about 2/3 of a house down there. So the number of people getting notices is minimal. And the board has got to be more responsible of their duties and than I think they have been. They act sort of stunned that anybody has brought up the zinc roof and the glass and the fact that it's totally at odds and totally incompatible with everything that's there. And it just so happens it's a classic area, and the Meadow Club being the structure that it is, but the homes in that area, I will die if this happens, but I think we should be ready for, I don't want to find out that the darn building is going up while we're trying to figure out, what to do about it. And I wish I could read their minds. If I knew for sure they were going to, boy, that's going to be an explosive day for me if they approve that. That's all I better say.
And I'm going to defer comment, so, okay. Anything else? So I'll make a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing personal matters.
Second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.